Hey, welcome back to the channel, and this is my review of Australia versus New Zealand. It was nice to see Ardy, Surveyor Superman, as captain. I think that's a role he's kind of born to take up. Let's see what happens in the future, but I think he's a very good captain, leads from the front, and has a lot of experience in that role. Also, another thing I liked was the Australian jersey. I thought it was really nice. From the off, both teams looked pretty sharp. A little bit too much kicking, I felt, from Australia, and that proved to be the case as we reached the end of the first half with possession firmly in New Zealand's grasp. But yeah, they were playing okay, running the ball up hard. New Zealand as well, very good. Execution throughout the game was excellent, and you saw in the first exchanges that New Zealand were looking to go blind a lot, down the blind side or the short side, however you want to call it. And yeah, that seemed like an interesting tactic. I don't know whether Aaron Smith called that on the pitch or whether it was something that they talked about beforehand. Probably the latter, but I was trying throughout the game, because they kept this up for quite a long time, to work out why, and it was kind of maybe a grinding process that they were trying to move about the forward pack, get them to make short bursts to hit the next ruck or the next maul, and keep them constantly moving, not give them a time to rest. And yeah, it worked well in the end, but interesting tactic. I felt like I couldn't fully work out what they were trying to achieve, so maybe you can help me in the comments with that, what you thought they were going for there. Like I said, because their execution was so good, it worked well for them, but after their last performance, a little bit of a surprise. So that man Aaron Smith, who I think he was mic'd up on the commentary I watched, he didn't stop talking the entire game. It was unbelievable. I'm always a big proponent of scrum halves chopsing or talking to their forward pack and letting them know what to do and where they want the ball. But he took it to another level. Just such a great player. And after an uncharacteristic mistake, he puts in a great kick when he sees the fullback has been brought up by a crossfield kick, and finds a bit of space. And then New Zealand get a line out and attacking. Actually, it goes out of the Smith kick, so it's Australia's ball. But Australia throw it in, and you've got perhaps the classic moment that we got from this match, and that's Scott Barrett absolutely mullering or leathering the Australian number 9 McDermott, who's on like his test. I don't think it was his debut, but he's definitely a young player, and he got absolutely smashed. It's like the last thing a number 9 wants, just like a big second row, absolutely smashing into him, dislodges the ball, and Frizzell is over for the first try. So New Zealand take the lead. Mwanga didn't get a kick this time, but on that note, I thought he struck the ball really sweetly all game, and yeah, he's really playing well, playing into some good form, I think, before the World Cup. So game restarts. Australia gets some nice phases together. Their heads haven't dropped at this point, and yeah, they've been pretty physical. Guy who I thought that, for me anyway, the best performance I've seen in an Australian jersey was Valentini. I thought he was like tremendous, real hard runner, great in defense too, and I thought he was really good, and he made a couple of big plays too. So he did really well as a few of the other Australian strike runners, and they got New Zealand under a little bit of pressure there. They work their way to the New Zealand line, and New Zealand are scrambling their defence a little bit. And yeah, Valentini seems to almost get over under the post, and it goes out wide to Karebi. Stuart Barnes, who I didn't mention as a referee today, we'll get back to that later, discusses, gets all the information, asks the TMO exactly what he wants, and they have a good conversation. He tries this aloud, rightly so, but then they go back to the Valentini grounding under the posts, and they award a try. It's right in front of the post, so the youngster Carter Gordon puts it over, and Australia actually in the lead 7-5. So it's been a pretty even start now. It looks like it's going to be a fantastic game. On the point of Carter Gordon, I think he had a pretty good game. Expect a little bit of nerves as a starting 10 for the first time for your national team, but a few missed kicks, like that's acceptable, I think. A few mistakes, less so, particularly in the fundamentals of the game. But I thought he looked good, and a little bit surprised he was taken off so early in the second half. But overall a positive performance from him, I think. Definitely looks the part on the international stage, which is what you want really. Looked up for it, looked pretty sharp, and just those few errors I think let him down. Australia still doing well. New Zealand get the ball back and it goes back and forth a little bit. But Australia are managing to get a few turnovers at the ruck, which is a bit surprising because New Zealand were so effective there against South Africa. But one thing I did think was Australia were kicking away the ball a little bit too much. If you look at the New Zealanders, they would put that ball through hands more often and kick later in the phase count. And I thought Australia missed a trick there. They had the opportunity a couple of times to stretch New Zealand, particularly running the ball out of their own half. And they opted to put the kick in, I'd say, a touch too early. And giving the possession back to New Zealand is never a good idea. Australia get a kickable penalty and Carter Gordon misses it. Again, one of those mistakes you'd expect him to get a kick. But Australia definitely in it at this point, and it's all to play for them. And they're looking pretty good, as are New Zealand. It's a good game. And perhaps the story of the match, Australia, again, have a good run of phases, put some good play together, make a couple of breaks, but they come away with no points. And that really cost them as the game went on. New Zealand, by contrast, seemed to convert like almost every chance that they had, which is a classic New Zealand way to play and level that they play at. But Australia really missed a few opportunities just to get some points on the board, keep the scoreboard ticking over, as they say. And in the first half, that really cost them, particularly when stuff started to go against them later on as the game unfolded. So Smith sticks with his tactic of attacking the blind side, and it's becoming really obvious what he's doing now, but he still keeps going there. And fair play, they power down, great hands by the way, they power down the blind side all the way from the halfway line, almost to the Australian try line. And it's just blindside, wave after wave after wave. And he's really directing his forwards exceptionally well. And then we get perhaps the most controversial point in the match, I would say. The ball slips out of the side of a ruck, I believe it is, and Corambetti is in an offside position, but he kind of scoops it up and scoops it back to his players. And Wayne Barnes, who's had a good game up until this point, he blows up for a penalty. All right, fair enough. No arguments with that at all. Talia attempts to take a quick tap and gets over the line for a score, goes to the TMO. Now, they're talking about, did Talia tap the ball with his foot? Did he touch it with his foot? Did he move it with his foot, which you need to do to restart the game? And ultimately, they decide no. But Wayne Barnes doesn't seem happy with that decision for some reason. He seems to want something more out of this situation. And so as soon as the TMO decides that there's no try, he yellow cards Corambetti. And to me, I was shocked, I know it's Wayne Barnes and we should expect the unexpected, but I was really surprised. He hadn't discussed it with him, unless the coverage I watched was not showing me the entire conversation. But he never even discussed it with him. So the guy goes no try, and then he goes, okay, well, in that case, you off with a yellow card. And Corbetty's been their best player, for a while now, And yeah, I really wish that wouldn't have happened because we had such a great contest up until that point. And it did seem to change the game. You just got the sense that things went downhill then for the Australians. And again, every rugby fan doesn't want the referees' decisions to influence the results of matches. We know that it does sometimes, but in a case like this, I think there was no need to yellow card him. I don't know, let me know what you think, but I thought it was a bit of a snap decision and out of the blue and really didn't need to happen. So they finally have their first scrum of the game, which is unbelievable. They seem to have been playing for ages. I'm not sure on what minute, but about 20-25 minutes in, something like that I think it was. And yeah, both sides look pretty solid. Yeah, so it shows you again, New Zealand are looking to play with pace as they did against South Africa and kind of run the big guys around a little bit. This time they went down the blind side, but I think the same principle is at play. You just get that pack moving, you know, keep the ball in play for as long as possible and tire them out, which is a great strategy against a bigger pack. So yeah, it goes back and forth, a little bit, again, too much kicking, which I'm not a fan of. And 30 minutes in, it's still 7 points to Australia, 5 points to New Zealand. That's 30 minutes into the first half. Quite incredible, really. But I think that man down is taking its toll. Players in this Australian team are starting to look a little bit tired now. So you're wondering, it's like New Zealand's sweet spot traditionally, that 5-10 minutes before the whistle. Are they going to pull something out of the hat? And yeah, indeed they do. Again, a surge down the blind side, orchestrated by Aaron Smith, results in an attacking line out this time. And New Zealand, great to see them back to doing this, get a great rolling maul. And Cody Taylor has had a great game actually, and I think a bit of renaissance in his international career. He put in a great shift today. Very, very busy player. Gets over for a try, and yeah, now you're sensing a bit of danger for Australia, and you're wondering, can they get it to the halftime? Can they get into the halftime shed unscathed? There's like 5 minutes left, but yeah, it's not looking good. Yeah. And then perhaps Gordon's biggest mistake of the first half. He, again, my pet peeve, I always mention it, but it is he switches off from the restart, and he fluffs his kick and puts New Zealand on the front foot. They take the ball through hands, some good running, put it in midfield, and yeah, Australia, I think they were ready for their halftime oranges and Gatorade or whatever they have in Australia, and yeah, New Zealand weren't having any of that, and they ship it out to Will Jordan on the wing. It works a little bit of magic, manages to get over past two guys, and yeah, New Zealand are in for a score just before, well, the halftime whistle's already gone, the siren sounded, so they were playing on, and yeah, the score then is inflated. What was it at halftime? It was Australia 7, New Zealand 19. So in that 10 minutes, New Zealand have totally changed the face of the game, and it's going to be uphill work now for Australia. Oh, plus I forgot to mention, their captain got injured and had to be stretchered off. Just wasn't their day, I think. Yeah. But surprisingly, Australia do start the second half pretty well, and they're trying to get back into the game. Again, good face play, running hard, cleaning out well, good ruck management, and they're putting the ball through the phases, and you know, that's what you want to see any team doing. New Zealand's defence is very good. But yeah, they have a line-out maul, attacking line-out maul, and New Zealand scupper that, and they don't get over for any points, I think. So again, it's one of those things, they really was crucial that they scored at that time, converting pressure into points, and they couldn't do it, and it was right at the beginning of the first half, a perfect opportunity to put some pressure back on New Zealand. It didn't turn out that way, and every one of those small little battles that Australia lost it just piled on the pain really, and at the end it was quite a comfortable win for New Zealand. Before that attacking line-out, I will say, there were quite a significant amount of substitutions made by Australia up front. And I don't think that's the best time to do that. I'm not sure how much control over they have over when the substitutes actually come onto the field. But you want, a settled pack there for that opportunity to score, and getting like fresh legs on in the pack, what's the call, what are we doing? We're not like warmed up to the game, I think is a little bit of a mistake. You want to put your substitutes on at a more opportune time. But yeah, that's a nitpick really, one of my many nitpicks. But so Australia again, no points. Gordon and McDermott are off. I think Gordon, despite his mistakes, I thought he looked apart. McDermott, on the other hand, I don't know. I didn't see much from him at all to justify his inclusion over Nick White. Not a great performance for him, I think. And Australia did a little bit better, I would say, or will do, with Gordon and White in the next game. I'm pretty certain that they will choose. And Australia attack well. They are attacking the New Zealand defence and throwing everything in the kitchen sink at them, but New Zealand are holding them out. And this feels like the last gasp now for Australia for any chance that they have in this game. And the New Zealand team hold out, and also the replacement prop for their captain gets some kind of back injury or something, we're not sure, ribs maybe. And he's struggling now. He's barely managing to keep up to the game. And, I did feel a little bit of sympathy for the Australians, maybe for the first time. But I was like, when it's not your day, really is not your day, right? So there's 20 minutes left, and really it's the first sustained period of attack that New Zealand have had now in the second half. So that shows you great grit and determination by the Australians to challenge New Zealanders. But New Zealand, the All Blacks, run through the phases and they score. It's pretty simple stuff. Caleb Clark, who sneaked on at some point. I didn't even notice, to be honest, but nice to see him. I know he gets a lot of criticism, and maybe rightly so, but as a young player, it's nice to see him get a score when he came on. Mo'unga kicks it again striking that ball very sweetly. New Zealand fans and coaching staff must be happy about that. Roygaard looks very good as well in 9. I haven't really seen him play that much in Super Rugby, but he looks good. We could learn obviously from Aaron Smith, and I'm sure he is. But in terms of his presence and his ability to get the ball out, pretty good. He looks like a kind of a physical boy as well. Doesn't mind getting pushed about a little bit. So he looked good. They could be pleased with his kind of his debut, I think. Yeah, so there's another try for Talea, and New Zealand finally pin their ears back, and they start running from their own 22. Scott Barrett produces some second row magic, and then Ioane goes over for a try. So Australia down to 14 men again, though this time. Less controversial, I feel, than the last time, but still, you can't afford to give away those yellow cards. And it's always, how shall I say, always reduces my enjoyment of a game when the teams are down to 14 men. So if it's justified, then fair enough, but don't be too trigger happy with them, is all I'm saying. That affects the fans just as much as the speed and ferocity of the rugby. Feeling like it's an unfair contest. So I don't know with Wayne Barnes, he seems to have a good 70 minutes, and then he has a brain fart then for 10 minutes and gets too emotionally involved or something. But the second yellow card I wouldn't disagree with though. But anyway, the point stands. So overall, New Zealand, again, with a convincing performance, just their skill level, their execution, and teamwork as well. I thought they playing really well together as a pack now. Ritalik and other players didn't play as well as they did last week, but they pull in solid, very solid shifts. And it's nice to see young players coming through for them as well and getting the opportunity. Other players are playing themselves into a nice bit of form. Moanga, definitely. Will Jordan, that's going to be great. Anna Smith is as great as ever. Their front row is doing really well. So New Zealand, a lot of positive points. Australia, although it's a bit of a thumping at the final whistle, can be kind of pleased, I think. Their players and the players Jones has selected lack match fitness and is showing. You just hope none of their players, because of that, are picking up injuries. That's the worry that you would have, is playing a player like, in such a high intensity match before they've kind of built up the momentum to do it. So I'm not sure about that tactic, but I guess he's desperate for players. But I do like the new 10, Carter Gordon. I hope he gets another try there, and I think he'll only get better. I think he's made for this level. And get Nick White back in there. They're going to struggle in the front row, but their centres were great. So we'll see how it goes for Australia. They're definitely up against it though. Like I said, nothing seems to be going their way. So they're going to really look forward to these warm-up matches to see if something comes right for them. New Zealand, they're riding a crest of a wave now, so let's see how far they can ride it for. But a good match, especially the first half, I thought was cracking, so very enjoyable. Great atmosphere, and like I said, nice jerseys. So hope you enjoyed my review. Thank you very much for listening. Please like, subscribe and comment, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.